Well, alright everybody, well we're here today to do a really special interview with Dev Kara announcing what has been something that hasn't been around for a very long time that is now coming back. Dev, care to basically tune in on that?
The long-awaited return of the sleeping giant of South African boxing, one of the biggest advertisers back in the day. They commanded the space from 1976 to 2008. And I've managed to sign an exclusive consultancy deal with them to bring them back into boxing. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you can see just over my right shoulder over here the bottle of Old Buck Gin. And if you remember, back in those times when they were a big player in the market, these pull-out posters which you used to find inside Boxing World magazine. And that of course is Vianney Bungu. Unfortunately didn't make the Hall of Fame, I believe. Is that correct? Yeah, they tried to get him into the Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, he didn't get enough votes. I think that happened just this week, unfortunately. But nonetheless, Old Buck Gin are back into boxing, and we've struck a deal where we've got a very, very enticing competition that I'm going to be running and adjudicating on behalf of Old Buck Gin. We're going to be giving money away, we're going to be having a league, we're going to be crowning a winner, winner's going to get a paycheck, as well as the Old Buck belt. It's back!
Well, yeah, I mean, for those people that actually don't know about the Old Buck belt, i.e. the younger generation, what is it?
So, the Old Buck belt is referred to by many as the holy grail of South African boxing. So, back in the day, and I'm talking about that time period, 76 to 2008, Old Buck being the sponsor, the lead sponsor of South African boxing, also were the creators of the Old Buck belt. The Old Buck belt was awarded to any fighter who defended his national title. Initially it was 3 times, then it got increased to 5 times. They would get that Old Buck belt. But the Old Buck belt held a different level to having the national title. Then also a South African boxer who won a major international world title would also be awarded the Old Buck belt, as well as international fighters who came to fight in South Africa against our best. If they won the title from one of our guys, they would get an Old Buck belt, which is again Mike Weaver over here in another one of these pull-out magazines, proudly holding the Old Buck belt aloft. He of course won it. So it was open to South Africans and internationals. It held huge esteem. And they want to get back into the sport. They also want to bring the belt back into the sport. So anybody who watched boxing between 2000 or 1976 and 2008 was very au fait with the Old Buck belt and what it meant. And even today, when I was putting these posts up on Facebook recently, just little teasers, trying to gauge how many people were still living memory of that Old Buck belt. Wow, the response was out of this world, and when I showed that to the people at Old Buck, they just had to get a piece of the action and come back in.
Well, the good news is that they are back, but I think a lot of people want to know, well, Dev, how did you do this? Like, how did this all come about? You know, let us know about that.
Timing and just good luck, I guess. I've got a very good friend who is working in finance in the parent company of Old Buck Gin, which is called Henry Taylor and Reese. They're a subsidiary of Distell, and Old Buck, of course, is a brand that falls under Henry Taylor and Reese's umbrella. And he obviously knew that I go to the Eastern Cape to do ring announcing. I go around to different parts of the country, and he didn't really understand the significance. And I, in passing, said to him, yeah, Old Buck's one of your brands. You guys were huge in boxing. Do you even realize, like, you know, what you have on your hands? He casually mentions, yeah, I've seen all these belts hung up on the wall. Now, he's not a boxing guy, but he'd seen the belts hung up all over the walls inside their office. And then when I started explaining the history and the prestige of it, he went to his boss, meetings were set up, back and forth. Unfortunately, COVID happened. It kind of slowed everything down, but as soon as COVID was over and we could have a face-to-face meeting, I pitched an idea to them, how to bring them back into the sport of boxing, and they decided to buy the idea, and we're going to be rolling with it hopefully from the 5th of December this year.
So let's talk about what we're going to be doing here. Is you essentially want to be running like a competition, so to speak. So the format of the competition, how's that going to work? Just give us a little bit more details there.
Right, so any of the tournaments, fight cards that I'm ring announcing at, being the man on the ground, sitting ringside watching all of the fights as they happen, I get to be the judge. And what I'm going to be looking for is one man or woman from that fight card who shows the old buck spirit. And that could be a person who gets knocked down in the first round, gets up off the floor, battles to the 12th, makes a close fight. It could be the person who blasts his opponent out with a big knockout. It could be the underdog, not expected to win, who comes and pulls off the massive upset. I'm going to be awarding that person per fight card a 5,000 Rand cash prize. That person is going to go into a league, the league of which I'm going to be managing through the year, giving regular updates on all the Facebook pages that are following South African boxing. And at the end of the year, in a calendar year's time, should coincide with Rumble Africa's last tournament of 2021, we're going to be crowning the champion, the season 1 champion, who's going to be cut a sizable check, and of course is going to be the winner of the Old Buck belt.
So what you're saying is, if people want to butter themselves up to you, basically they put themselves in a good position. No, I'm just kidding. Just to encapsulate, this.
A whole bunch of new friends.
Yeah, all of a sudden you're going to become the most popular man in South African boxing. To encapsulate this whole experience and what people are going to be going through, how do you finish?
Look, it's a small step in the right direction. Of course, South African boxing has been lacking that big spotlight sponsor, somebody with a sizable checkbook, but also somebody who brings back the prestige of the old days when South Africa was just churning out national titleist after national titleist, who was good enough to go and compete internationally with the best of the world title winners. You know, we're going to rekindle that spirit of that period when Old Buck used to be running the roost in boxing. And it's a small step. It's going to be a big step in the long run. Hopefully there's going to be a season 2, judging on, of course, the success of the opening season of this concept that we're going to be running. And, you know, who knows? We could be seeing Old Buck events. We could be seeing collaborations between different promoters. You know, all I implore on for boxing people and promoters at large, you know, just give me a little bit of time to work with the concept. Let me bring them back into the game. We are all going to benefit in the long run, especially the fighters, you know. Of course, it's extra publicity for the fighters. It's extra publicity for the promoters, the venues, the city that the fight cards take place in. You know, it's a big win-win. And I'm sure Old Buck are going to be back in a big way, and it's going to really highlight South African boxing to the masses, to the people who might have been on the fence about watching boxing. We're going to make these fighters a household name, and we want to take boxing back to the most consumed sporting good on offer in South African television.
Well, there we have it. Devin Curra, the man that helped bring Old Buck back into the sport again. Big congratulations against you, Devin, and we'll be seeing a lot of what's happening very, very shortly.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.